My penis was oscillating between extremely sensitive and borderline traumatized.
This one's wife. No sense of duty. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Chiara Fiorillo writes in the Mirror, Harry shoehorned this one's wife into the firm, and she never wanted to be a hard-working royal. Prince Harry shoehorned this one's wife into the royal family with the idea of having her as a working royal, even if she was not suited to the role, a broadcaster has claimed. See, it's all Harry's fault, not hers. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex married in May 2018, but at the beginning of 2020 announced they would step back as senior royals, spending their time between the United Kingdom and the United States. They now live in California with their 2 children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, in case you've been in a coma the last 4 or 5 years and weren't aware of this. Last week, royal historian Hugo Vickers claimed that this one's wife had no intention of pulling her weight, and had a little plan from the start, as she did not want to be a hard-working senior royal. Indeed, that would be accurate. As you know, as a mid-range narcissist, this one's wife believes the world owes her a living, and when her narcissism had compelled her to ensnare the ginger brat, this meant that she hit pay dirt. Essentially, she thought to herself, I don't need to lift a finger ever again. He's got loads of money, the royal family have got loads of money, I'm going to be able to leverage off this, my advisors tell me as such, I'll be a billionairess before Christmas. Accordingly, as a combination of her sense of entitlement, her general lack of work ethic, the narcissism and the way it causes her to behave, there was never any question of her getting down, rolling up her sleeves and grafting. Instead, she went down the route of grifting. Speaking on Sky News Australia, Esther Crowker said, the reason why these claims have come up is because the King and Princess Kate are out of action. It really calls into question how this one's wife could have picked up some of the slack if she was still a working royal. The reality is, she was not necessarily the best suited to life in the royal family. I don't think she was well prepared for the role she would undertake, and by extension, whether she would have even wanted to take that role. One of the advantages that Kate had was that she was with William for almost a decade before they got married, and she assumed the roles she had. Harry effectively shoehorned this one's wife into the institution. And it wasn't a matter of him marrying her and they were creating a life together. He married her with the intention of also having her as a working royal. He could have married her and stepped back, but he didn't. Well, of course he's going to regard her as a working royal. That's what he was. And of course, that's what he'd seen had happen with his brother. And that's what he's seen with other relatives. So it's entirely appropriate that Harry thought to himself, well, I'm going to marry her. She's given me lots of spicy poontang. She lets you do what you want sexually. So it's all good gravy in that regard. I'm going to get her into the royal family and she can take up a working role like the rest of us. That's a natural response from has-been. Naturally, of course, this is being portrayed as somehow it isn't her fault that she did what she did, that she couldn't help because she was unprepared, and that Harry had somehow fast-tracked her. It's the other way around. She fast-tracked herself into Harry's life because, as you know, as a narcissist, she needs to get that control and fuel as quickly as possible. And where the narcissism identifies that he is essentially an excellent target, it then ramps things up with her, causing her to go hell for leather for the purposes of drawing him in and ensnaring him. Thus, she fast-tracked herself into the royal family. She, of course, was ill-suited for the role, not least, of course, because of cultural differences and the fact that she didn't really understand the way that it worked, but moreover, as a consequence of the fact that her narcissism couldn't tolerate the various threats to control that the institution that the monarchy presented. The fact that she couldn't have her way meant that it was a repeated threat to control which resulted in her exhibiting bullying behaviour, kicking off, shouting, being obnoxious. Rather than harness the institution, as many other narcissists have done so that have joined royal families around the world, her narcissism fought against it with the results that we have seen. The commentator continued by explaining, I suspect that this one's wife did not have the temperament to do it. I don't think she was well suited for the role. I don't think she would have been interested in playing second fiddle to the Waleses. That is correct. I don't think she would have liked the regimented, strict lifestyle of a working royal. Indeed, she would not have done, because her brand of narcissism would fail to harness that, but would instead perceive it as a repeated threat to control, resulting in her rebelling against it. She added, and I think she might have had her own intentions, with the exposure and the platform she had as a duchess being very handy. Will always be handy. She will always get attention now. One of the things that was missing was duty. Did she ever show a sense of duty? Given the length of time she and Harry stayed as working royals and how they left acrimoniously, everything that's followed, I think the answer is no. Now, it is the case that certain narcissists will show a sense of duty. You will find that, for instance, in the emergency services, within the armed forces, that a narcissist harnesses the idea of duty as a means for making them look good and to get to the various aspects of the prime aims. But this one's wife is not imbued with that sense of duty. Although a narcissist who harnesses duty does so purely for the purpose of the prime aims, someone such as this one's wife doesn't even do that. Duty suggests accountability. Duty suggests some form of shackle on what she's allowed to do. And she is bereft of a sense of duty because her narcissism causes her to behave like a flibbertigibbet, some kind of free spirit that can go wherever it wants and do whatever it chooses. Thus, whether she might be appearing as Fridge by Valentino or Kermit Goes to Church, whether she's bullying a young girl or slamming doors in the face of the future Princess of Wales, this one's wife is allowed to do what she wants as determined by her narcissism. It isn't the case that she has any palpable sense of duty. As mentioned, certain narcissists do because the narcissism recognizes that utilizing duty can serve the prime aims, but not for her. Duty constrains. Duty suggests hard work, and she's a work-shy fop. Duty suggests that she has to do it a particular way, and her narcissism says, nah, that ain't happening. And thus we saw that after she joined the royal family, which some commentators see her as being shoehorned into, it all fell apart as her narcissism repeatedly crashed against the edifice of the monarchy with all of the results that we have seen since. Thus, it is entirely the case that she has no sense of duty, once again driven by her narcissism. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.